What movie is 10 out of 10 with literally no bad parts? A Knight's Tale is an absolute banger that no one ever talks about. I'm surprised no one has said Goodfellas yet, or even 12 Angry Men. The Matrix. There isn't one bad scene in that movie. I was fortunate enough to see it in the theater and was blown away. This is a movie I wish I could watch again for the first time. 30 years spoiler. It took me years, decades, to realize that the reason Agent Smith figured out where Neo was going, got there first, and shot him is because he knew that motel room, as it was the same one Trinity was in at the beginning of the movie. I genuinely, sincerely think this is the best movie of all time. I don't refute that there are other films with great qualities, but movies are a visual medium. This movie simply does it better than any other. Paddington 2 has no filler, one of Hugh Grant's best roles, some creative set pieces, and it had me crying twice. I watched this for the first time on one of the worst nights of my life. My mom was in ICU and I couldn't sleep. I finished it and I was smiling. Such a powerfully charming movie. Fellowship of the Ring. From the narrative beginning with Galadriel, to the Shire with the hobbits and Gandalf's introduction, explaining the ring's backstory, to Aragorn in the pub, Rivendell, Moria, all the battles, dialogue, and the Eye of Sauron, and the ending leaving you wanting more. Even the slow parts are done so well they move the story and visuals along. Perfect movie in my opinion. As a kid, I found Fellowship the most dull and my least favorite. As an adult, I think it might be my favorite. It has a sense of wonder and whimsy that is lost a little in 2 and 3 due to the darker tone, not that they aren't also masterpieces. I would say there's hardly a wasted moment in the entire extended edition trilogy, but yes, Fellowship Cinematic is probably the most solid claim for this thread. The opening cart scene coming into the Shire is just chef's kiss. I 100% love this movie, and really surprised it's this far down. The first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, just nonstop fun. Edit. Of all the comments I've ever made, this is not the one I expected to blow up, especially as it is only 2 lines. I went to bed and woke up to hundreds of notifications. I then went and climbed a mountain and came back to 100 more notifications. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Just watched it again with my son. I can confidently say Disney has not made a better live-action movie since. That includes their Marvel and Star Wars properties. It's just so clever and well-acted and layered. And the score, boy, is it filled with earworms. Somehow, Pirates tiptoes the line of absurd without being dumb. And it's a swashbuckler, a genre that has been pretty much dead in the water since the 1930s. The trilogy is some of my favorite film of all time, but I do wish they had kept a bit more of the darker tone of the first. It had plenty of levity, but it wasn't straight up goofy like several moments from the other 2 were. The last 2, outside of the trilogy, well, they're entertaining at least. The first one is one of very few perfect movies. By that I mean I wouldn't change or remove any scene, line of dialogue, etc. The Shawshank Redemption. Every single scene serves the story perfectly. No filler, no wasted moments. The pacing builds so naturally that by the time you get to that final reveal, it feels both completely earned and still surprising. Plus, Morgan Freeman's narration ties it all together without ever feeling intrusive. Some great entries here. I'd like to add Ratatouille. Cannot think of one bad scene. Brilliantly constructed. Love Ratatouille. And while we're talking about Pixar, Coco. Talk about a masterpiece visually and musically, and the story is so beautiful. I think they dealt with Day of the Dead so respectfully and depicted the afterlife with such detail and whimsy, and I will never not cry for the last 10 minutes of that movie. That scene when young Anton Ego fell on his bike and got Mama's ratatouille hits me right in the feels every time. Such a great movie.
Yeah, Ratatouille wouldn't make my list of favorites, but it's flawless in my opinion.
The Spider-Verse films. I'd say never has there been so much pressure for a trilogy to stick the landing, but Lord of the Rings exists. The Dark Knight keeps me on my toes from start to finish. I actually rewatched this movie over the weekend, and I never realized just how thrilling the movie is, and how much happens one after another. From Joker making his first announcement to the Batman, all the way up until him blowing up the hospital, is a phenomenal hour plus of film. In a good way, it feels like you get no breathing room.
Stand By Me. From the treehouse to the final walk into town. Those were the days.
Jaws. I have seen it so many times and I still pick up on different things each time. Somehow, Puss in Boots 2, The Last Wish, it does what it sets out to do perfectly, arguably better than the previous entries.
I was blown away by the fullness of this movie. It has no right being so rich on perspective. It's like none of the usual naysayers stopped the writing and directing to protest that people might not understand. It simply pulled through with people that are humans will understand this. Let's bet on the human viewers.
Agreed 100%. Thanks for reminding me to rewatch. Low-key wasn't expecting it to hit that hard, but it ended up being way deeper and funnier than it had any right to be. That movie really showed up and over-delivered. The Shawshank Redemption. Every scene moves the story forward, and the ending still gives chills no matter how many times you watch it. What I hate about The Shawshank Redemption is that every single time I'm flicking through channels and it's on, I say, I'll just watch this scene, and then end up watching the whole movie. I was in a test audience for Shawshank and knew nothing about the film before I saw it, other than it was based on a book by Stephen King. That movie held the entire audience wrapped throughout. None of us were expecting such a fantastic film. I remember filling out the form at the end and saying that this was one of the best movies I've seen. By the way, I was also in a test audience for North and had the exact opposite opinion. That was one of the worst movies I'd ever seen. My 84-year-old father had never seen it, so when he got ill and came to stay with me, we watched it together. He loved it, and it turned out to be the last movie he ever saw. The Shining. Even the interview scene is unsettling. I know there was a lot of abuse to make it happen, but perfectly acted by everyone involved. Beautifully shot and beautiful set design. The Truman Show. Every single scene builds on the last one. Jim Carrey gives one of the most underrated performances ever, and that ending still gives me chills no matter how many times I watch it. Matilda was beautifully directed by Danny DeVito. He and Rhea Perlman really took care of Mara Wilson during and after production. Yeah, those stories about Danny and Rhea are really heartwarming, sort of tangentially related in a way, but I just can't do the whole people in positions of authority being cruel to children genre that was so popular in the 90s. Being a kid and seeing this, James and the Giant Peach, Harry Potter, and so on, people were so obsessed with that plot device, and I hated it. But I'm glad this movie exists and resonates so much with so many people. Saw it for the first time a couple of months ago. Loved it, but I can't quite rate it flawless because of Danny DeVito narrating it. The narration was perfectly fine, but he's one of the main antagonists. I can't agree with that choice. Great movie. One I remember well watching many times with my now adult mid-30s daughter. Miss Trunchbull, the Pokey. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.